Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to Teach Me Tech. I'm your host, Laurel Gray, and today is a glorious day. Today is the day that Peter Moriarty has deigned to join me on Teach Me Tech. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that I could finally come down and join you for a session.
Yay! It took a lot of convincing, guys, but he's on finally. And you might know that Peter has got another show called Google Made Easy and another one called Business in the Cloud that's coming out very shortly.
Yeah.
And in his spare time, he also runs a business called IT Genius.
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction. I'm really glad to be here.
We're very happy to have you. And the reason that I've got Pete on today is to talk all about how to get started with organizing your online file storage. I can think of no one better to walk us through that journey. And today's Teach Me Tech is a little bit more conceptual than we're normally used to, but hopefully we'll be able to demo you through a whole process on how to get organized based on the best practice. All right? So here's what we're going to cover. Why do you need to organize your files in the first place? Which file storage solution should you choose? Choosing the right user account for your file storage. Structuring your folder system for success. Setting up easy file naming standards or conventions. Signing into and downloading Google Drive. Sharing your folders with your team. Auditing and getting ready for moving to the cloud. Woo woo. And finally, advanced security permissions for Drive and also for AO Docs, which Peter's going to share a little bit more about. So without further ado, let's get started.
Let's do it.
I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thank you.
This is going to be great because people ask me all the time, with organizing your files, what the best practice is, how do you know how to organize things properly so that you can share with your team, and so many different questions come up.
Yeah.
And I know that you're working within Google Drive specifically all the time and migrating huge amounts of files for your clients.
Yeah.
So you're the right person to talk to about this.
I hope so. We help multiple small businesses every single year. Over 150 businesses a year move to the cloud, and that's actually our whole business. So what we do is we help businesses if they're using cPanel for their emails or Microsoft or any of those kind of legacy business systems, maybe using a file server sitting in the office at the moment, and we help them make that big jump and that big move to the cloud. So Google's a big part of that, and part of that process is working out, well, where do you put your files? How do you store them? How do you access them? How do you get them nice and organized? And in this episode, we're going to be talking about, well, how do you get ready before you're about to make the jump?
Beautiful. And the reason why this is so exciting as well is because the service that you provide in person is great. But for someone who's maybe just starting up a business and is looking to expand and get a couple more people in their team, this is a way for us to really walk you through and get the best practice set up so that you don't have to worry about wasting time later.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get it set up correct from the start. Some of our job, unfortunately, is undoing the mess of a business owner who's tried to work out things themselves, and they've read some things on the internet, they've gone to Google, and they've tried to read the instruction manual and do it their own way. We're going to give you the secrets to getting this working yourself, so you don't have to pay heaps of money on experts. If you're just starting small and you're making your first steps into getting employees set up in your business and other people sharing files, we're going to give you all the best tips.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like there's so many things that I can also tweak. I think what's good is that I've got everything in Google Drive at the moment, but I know that there's things that I could do. Yeah. So hopefully today you're going to help us to sort of learn, even if we've got everything in Drive, how to get that reorganized maybe?
Yeah, how to get it organized and how to get control over everything that you need.
Beautiful. So maybe you can walk us through, why do you need to organize your files in the first place? Like really, what's the problem with keeping stuff on a hard disk or keeping some stuff in Dropbox, some stuff in Drive, some stuff elsewhere?
The most important thing is if you're starting from one and you're going to two. So if you're a sole operator at the moment and you're looking to get employees on and start sharing files with others in the business, well, you've got to take a bit of a different approach to just having everything saved and stored in your machine, right? Because if your computer breaks down or you lose that hard drive, then all of a sudden you might lose everything. And some people don't do a very good job of backup at all. Sometimes people are carrying around all their important files on a USB stick or a portable hard drive. But the very, very important rule number one with file storage and with having effective data backup is that if your data is not in more than one place at any one time, well, it's not actually safe. So having your files only stored on a USB stick or only on a hard drive or something like that, well, if you were to lose or break that particular device, then you're going to potentially lose data, which could be devastating for the business. So the idea is that, well, not only do we want to keep our own data protected by having it in more than one place at the same time, but we want to have the accessibility. You know, can we access our files from our mobile device? Can we access them from any machine that we sign into, even if it's not our own machine? But then going further, well, how do we share that with our team members? How do we get work done with someone who might not be in the same office as us? You know, we might want to share something with a colleague or a supplier or a contact and be able to get work done with that person without having to email files back and forward the old-fashioned way.
Yep. Beautiful. Okay, that's a whole lot of reasons. And I think to sort of touch on the main point, it's like you want to have your business have different systems and run everything from one bucket per system.
Yeah.
So when you start to get too many buckets that are serving one function, that's when it starts to get really messy.
Yeah, absolutely. So really great point you touched on there. If you're currently using Dropbox and Google Drive and OneDrive and a mix of all different kinds of things, and maybe you've got a server sitting in the office as well, you want to try and consolidate it and have it in one place. The most important element for you to be able to scale and grow your business effectively is that you keep things simple. Scalable has to be simple. Otherwise, you just scale a mess and it turns into even more mess and more problems.
Do you mind if I ask you a bit of a super high level question?
Go for it, please do.
Let's say that you're a business owner and you've got a lot of video files in association with your business. You've got a bunch of stuff that's sort of not really relevant anymore.
Yeah.
That potentially could be left on a hard disk and then just chucked to one side. What do you normally recommend? Do you actually worry about it, or do you just take into consideration organizing the files that are current and relevant to your business now?
Good question. So overall, any file that's in your business that you may actually need at some point in the future, well, you're going to want to have that protected. So either have it stored and backed up in some kind of local storage. It might be a server, it might be a network drive, something like that. But preferably, you've got it stored in a cloud-based storage solution, which has some form of archiving which is going to keep it safe. If you've got older files in the business that you want to hold on to, yes, absolutely, you want to make sure that they're well organized, you want to make sure that you can find them, but it may not necessarily be relevant to have your whole 5 or 10 years worth of business data carrying around on your little laptop that you're taking around with you, particularly if it's got a small hard drive like a MacBook Air or a tablet or a Surface Pro or something like that. You might not be able to carry around a terabyte of data with you. So you might want to keep it simple. Just stick to your day-to-day stuff. We call it hot data. That's the things that you're using on a day-to-day basis, the projects, the files that your team are going to use on a day-to-day basis. Keep them in one place, and the rest of it, send it to the archive.
Okay. And by archive, you mean archive in the cloud?
Absolutely. An archive in the cloud that's secured and backed up. Because an archive that's on a hard drive or burnt to a disk, if there's people that are still doing that these days, that media can degrade over time. So it's safe when it's stored in a cloud-based solution. It's not so safe if it's on a hard drive that might get dropped or, in 5 years' time, lost. If it's on a cloud storage solution, it's going to be safe.
Okay. So that's great. That's a really good starting point, and that I wanted to clarify at the start. Especially if you're just getting into the whole cloud thing, it's going to be a process. So I guess before we even go any further, is there a certain amount of time that you usually allot for businesses to do this? Let's say they've got a huge amount of files and they're doing it on their own.
Yeah, look, if you're a small business owner, and you've got less than 5 people on the team, and you just want to go through the basics, well, you might be able to spend 2 or 3 hours on a weekend, probably going through this and getting it all organized and sorted out. Now, you're always going to be constrained by your internet connection when you're making the move to the cloud.
Yeah.
So if you've got a large amount of files and a large amount of data, and you're going to put it into a cloud-based file storage service, well, it might take time to actually do that initial upload. If you're lucky enough to have a great quality connection wherever you're living, and maybe you've got a fiber optic connection, or you've got a connection that's at least quick to upload files, then the actual data migration process might be quicker. If you're in a larger business, well, that's a whole other kettle of fish. You might have change management that you need to think about. You might have to think about business processes that might change, moving to online or cloud-based file storage solutions. So you need to have a bit of a plan for this. We're going to talk about some strategies in this session on how to plan for it.
Okay, cool. That helps. That helps me to kind of frame up the whole conversation that we're about to have.
Yeah.
So if you are watching this video, make sure that you really commit to this process. It doesn't sound like there's any sort of half-assing it, if I can say that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Just go whole hog, do the whole thing, and you'll feel ultimately much lighter and better about the whole
Absolutely.
thing.
Look, the result that you're going to get from implementing this process and going through what we're going to teach you how to go through is that you'll have all of your files in one place. They're going to be backed up and secured. Thanks to some of the tips Laurel's going to give us, they're going to be very, very well organized as well, so you can find exactly what you need. But most of all, you're not going to be at risk of data loss. Data loss for a business can be absolutely devastating, sometimes even bring a business completely to its knees. So listen up, this stuff is super important.
Cool. All right, I'm listening. Now, this is another big part of the discussion that I feel like we need to have this kind of chat, which is which file solution do you actually pick?
Yeah.
Because there are a ton of different storage solutions on the market, each having different functionality and a different price.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's hear the Peter Moriarty 2 cents on the whole thing.
Sure. So look, first and foremost, you want to make sure you're picking something with a large and reputable vendor. And by that, I mean Microsoft, Google, Apple, Dropbox, Box.com, the big players. You probably wouldn't want to go outside of those 5 players in the marketplace. The reason for that is the smaller, more kind of niche players in the online cloud storage space, and you'd probably include Amazon in that, by the way, they're safe as well, but the smaller, more niche players, the brands that you kind of haven't heard of, or they've got a creative solution to try and disrupt someone like Dropbox, they might not necessarily be around forever. Now, I'm not saying that those vendors are going to go out of business and lose your data, although it has happened from time to time. But what's more likely to happen is over time, they're either absorbed by another business, or they change direction, or maybe they can't work their business model out and they decide to shut things down. Now, the bigger players in an industry, they're going to give you more security and more safety in knowing that your data is going to be well protected and well looked after. So, one of the reasons that we choose Google and Google Apps is because they're supported by one of the biggest, by market share and value, obviously, one of the largest companies in the world, but one of the most significant tech companies in the world. If you think about Google have over 1 billion users on Gmail, and every single one of those users now also has a Google Drive account as well. So by the numbers, Google are pretty much number 1 in the cloud storage market. Now, that's just one solution. Microsoft, Dropbox, Box, they all have their other, their alternative solutions as well. And you can certainly investigate those. The reason why we choose Google Drive over those other solutions is that Google Drive is cost effective, and we can talk about some of the other solutions and how they compare there. It's also fully integrated with the rest of the Google Apps ecosystem. So if you're using Google for your email, even Google for your business email, using Google Apps for Business, which is what we help businesses kind of set up, get all the business emails set up on Google, well, then Google Drive is fully integrated with the rest of your Google suite of applications. So when I go to compose an email in my Gmail account, well, I can choose to attach something that's sitting in my Google Drive. When I receive an email in my email account, well, I can also choose to actually save an attachment for an email directly into my Google Drive as well. And of course, like most of these solutions, it runs right across all of my mobile devices. So anywhere I am, if I'm on the go, if I need to get work done, no matter what device I'm using, whether it's my phone, my tablet, my computer, someone else's computer, I can still connect to Google Drive and get all of my work done.
Beautiful. From an organizing perspective as well, what's so cool about Google Apps is that everything is just, these are the best breed applications that you need to have in your business anyways. So email, calendaring, file storage, and an intranet, as well as your contacts all loaded in. So that is one of the areas where I do recommend businesses just get all of that consolidated in the one central location and don't look elsewhere. This is your central crux.
Yeah, we see this as foundational to a business. You're going to have a CRM, which is your customer relationship management app. That's going to be your customer.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.